Hello everybody, welcome back with another video. Today we're going on with part 2 of getting this carb done. Don't know where that... I tried to sweep it up there, but that didn't work. We're getting this carb done. Hopefully let this 212 breathe once again. So obviously, first things first, make sure she's in neutral and back where you've got enough space to actually work on it. Making sure nothing's in your way. That step is done. So now, I gotta grab my keys and unlock the garage because I not being able to do it yesterday, and I do have all my tools. Since I didn't want to have to bring them all inside, I just put them inside of the 212. So let's get this garage open. And first, you just want to set everything where you're going to need it. Set my tools out. Well, I hope that didn't cause any damage. Looks to be good. Just inspecting that gasket here. Do that in a little bit. The garage. Go. It's open. So now, I get to work. First thing I'm going to do here, now that we've got our carb off, is inspect our little gasket over here. Indeed, gasket. Using my nail to kind of like drag around it, make sure there's no leaks. I'm going to take the screw off. That is just a dent, it's not an actual tear. Good. Our gasket seems to be A-okay. That is a very good thing. However, the back of this carb is really dirty. Yeah, yesterday you guys couldn't really see, but we took off this screw on the bottom, which drained out everything out of our bowl. So, let's go make sure everything is indeed out of this carb. I don't want it leaking fuel on me while we clean it. Just gotta take the tripod. It's probably about noon right now, and yeah, it's about time the sun is starting to set because daylight savings is very fun. So yeah, you got this here. Just gotta simply take this off. This one is really short and stubby. Softness is you want to make sure everything is out of. Then when you pour it down, make sure to use both of these as well. And go at every angle you can. So that way you are absolutely positively sure that everything out of the carb. Make sure to check like pretty much every angle you can do. And now it's time to inspect our carb. First foremost, put your cap back on. Smart idea, common sense. You don't want none getting in your tank. Because it's autumn right now. So, or not autumn. Fall right now. So, yeah, leaves could very much get into your fuel tank, which you do not want. Now, time to inspect the carb. Just gotta find a good place to sit down here with the camera so you guys can see everything I do. So first off, you want to just like give your good old bolt an inspection here. See, it's not too bad. I'm just gonna turn on the flash to make sure you guys can see neighbors now. That seems to be good. It does seem to be dirty. Give your bowl an inspection as well. Move it a little bit over here. You guys can see a bit better. See, this bowl is quite dirty, especially on the outside. You want both the outside and inside to be clean, because ideally stuff that's dirty on the outside could eventually end up on the inside of the carb. That's why people suggest to keep your carb clean in practically every spot. And now for the bottom, which you can clearly tell, just a brief inspection, you can tell this thing is definitely clogged. And this seems to be dry. I mean, this thing wasn't giving proper fuel. Or at least that's what we should think. And we should probably do a startup test to make sure it's actually drawing in a good amount of fuel. But I do have reasonable suspicion we are incredibly low on fuel. And there's no way to tell. Unless I get a modification for it, which I probably will. Yeah, just after that brief inspection, you can even see here gasket sides and the side where the air filter goes are also incredibly dirty. The inside, while it does look somewhat clean, you can tell there is dirt inside of there, especially for the side that attaches to the engine, which is really bad. And if you come along here to the inside, you can clearly see that that does not look healthy. Just smelling the carb, make sure, because, you know, sometimes you gotta smell your carb, and sometimes you can tell if there's something wrong. And even though we took the fuel out of it yesterday, it should still smell like fuel, and it doesn't really smell like fuel at all. Which means this thing really wasn't getting proper fuel. Meaning something could be wrong with our fuel lines, but this also clearly needs to be cleaned. Now, to get this off, you gotta remove this little piece here. I'm not entirely sure what that's there for. And then remove the pin here to get off your floater, which, when it moves, based on position, the carb gives more or less fuel. If you also look, you can see our throttle piece here is bent. That is not very ideal either. Just looking at just inspecting it a bit more here. And seems to be somewhat okay. Yeah, you can see this piece already fell off. So, let's just gently move this piece up and off. And you can already see things turning for the worst here, as clearly underneath that float, a lot of gunk. That is extremely bad. But we've got another big issue. This 212 may not run for a while, folks. Because this doesn't look good. This piece inside here shouldn't be damaged, but it is. Meaning bits and pieces of rubber from here have been getting into that engine. Because there's bits of rubber off of this missing. That is extremely bad. And this needs to be replaced before the carb can even go back on the engine. But it can be cleaned with that off, because you actually need to take that off in order to clean it properly. And ideally, my dad also just suggested on here that this thing, even when it had a clean carb at one time, didn't really run properly. And my dad has pointed it down to one of the jets, or probably both jets on here. Yes, there's two on every carb. We're going to have to probably rebuild the jets within the carb. That is something we're probably going to have to do before we even put this carb back on, because I want this thing to run as good as it used to, if not better. Almost like it came straight out of the factory. And you can see the pin, the floater is loose. Or it looks to be out of position. And there's a lot of free play, meaning that pin definitely isn't in the right location. Now that we've inspected our carb and can indeed clarify that we've got a problem, there's one more thing we should do, just for the sake of the 212, because I'm afraid we've got something wrong with our fuel line, which is a big fuel line, which comes from all the way back here, all the way up here. It's a big fuel line, unlike the GX75, which actually has a very short fuel line, which is in a dangerous position near the wheel. This one is in a somewhat better place underneath the mower. But you should probably get a catcher and test to see if we're even getting proper fuel, as I've got my doubts. I don't currently have a catcher, so I'm actually just going to put the bolt back on the bowl. Which also I guess isn't going to work. I'm going to just grab my key and put them in the ignition for right now. Even though the carb is off of the 212, this thing can still theoretically run if you input the right amount of fuel into it and the right amount of restriction of airflow. But you can also, the engine will still turn over no matter what, because, well, purely and obviously, the starter, or the electric motor that turns the engine over, will still run, and will still run even if it's the only thing on the engine. All you need is electrical power. And yes, I am pointing out the clearly obvious. Put this back here. As you can see, that filter looks nasty, and I just got fuel on my hands. No, I'm not being a wuss. Where did I put that bowl now? It's going to be hard for me to see it, but I know you guys will be able to see it. I'm going to come around to the other side, because I do believe, well, it should be, This engine has a fuel pump. No, I don't know how it works. Let's see here. Well, that don't look good. Don't worry, I'll clean this up. Actually, I should get the rag out now. Fire's over there. I want you guys to just watch as this thing pushes out fuel. That's not a good sign, because it should be pushing out way more, well, not way more, but it should be pushing out more fuel than that. So folks, we've got a fuel line problem, and that's a problem. Because this is a big fuel line, and it not only could mean that there's something wrong with the fuel lines, but also could mean something wrong with the fuel tank, fuel filter, or fuel pump, or one of the connections in what is probably multiple line segments might be broken. That is something very fun, being sarcastic, because there are multiple places where this could go wrong. Gas tank, fuel line, fuel filter, fuel pump, or a fuel line connection, or possibly one of many fuel line segments. As just like on GX75, there are multiple line segments. You can see this is probably one of many. This is going to be really, really fun to fix. And now that we know one of what could be multiple problems, we gotta sit here and try to stay calm, because I've got no clue what to do next, because we're in some big trouble. Yeah, I'll give you a better visual of yesterday. This line, don't clue what it's really for, has severe damage and broken half. This is the other part. If you actually take a look here, you can see line 1 broke, and line 2, minor damage, but is still damaged. This part can actually be removed without too much of a struggle. This part is very, very nasty and very dusty on the inside. Meaning air, or some of the air that's been drawn in from here, because that's literally just goes to like the engine housing of the fins for the flywheel. This thing's been drawing in dusty air, therefore this thing has quite literally been killing itself. Meaning we've got to take off this housing, pain in the butt by the way, because multiple things are attached to it, and completely clean this engine as good as we can. Yes, probably having to power wash it. But the first thing we have to do is take off the housing, which I don't want to do as of right now. So we're just going to do an inspection. Everything that's hooked up to this thing. And we're lucky. This thing is actually split in two. I'm hoping I don't have to remove this to get to this. No matter what, we have to do it. Also, that little vent down there has got to be cleaned, because that's where the air comes in, spins around, goes through, and into the engine. That whole thing has to be pressure washed, or should be pressure washed, as it's a better method of cleaning. Then you gotta turn the engine over to get all that water out of there, let it dry, and then reassemble everything. It's a big process and something I don't entirely have the ambition to do, but if it means keeping this good old mower from, I believe, is the 70s alive, something I'm willing to do. You gotta keep the legend alive, because legends never die. And this 212 is a prime example. Just like if I was to get a wrecked Dodge Viper, which, by the way, love it. Love the Dodge Viper. Legends never die. I would do everything in my power to keep that Dodge Viper alive. And get it up and running again. I'm doing everything I can with all my mowers to keep them running and get back to factory before probably modifying them. Except for the GX75, I'm just getting that back to being a childhood mower. I actually had a viewer last night on the 212 Roars video, and he had asked me if I was interested in any sort of mowers with the parts that come with them. Although I don't have too much space for them, I do have a spot for them. And to you, my friend, sorry I forgot the username, but I would absolutely be interested in having some more mowers with the parts that come with them. Just a quick warning, I don't have much money. I only have around 20 bucks right now, and still working to get a job. Full-time job, getting a job. So, that, just doing a rough inspection here. I can already tell you multiple things that kind of come off. This is layered on there. So, exhaust shield, top shield, then the flywheel housing. Oh boy. Okay, so see, this is layered on top of this piece. Everything that's on here, well, that piece is on there. This piece isn't on there, but it's blocking it. This whole throttle system, it's gonna be fun. Oh, hold on, can't let that tape come off. Well, it's gonna be a challenge here, folks. I don't even know where to start. Oh no. Oh no, indeed. This part don't come off. It does. I think. No, nope, that's part of the body. It's part of the frame. Please, I pray to the heavens of lords that I don't have to remove the engine just to get this housing off. By the way, Kohler USA. Sometimes fun to work on. In this case, not entirely. Well, tell you one thing. There's one solution we could do. And that is just, while the engine is running, yes, while the engine is running, take off the tube from here while the air filter is on, or while the carb is on. Have that whole housing off. Put like something to block water from getting to the air filter, and just as the engine's running, put some water in here, and it should clean itself. If not, we'll have to wait till the engine's hot, or put some hot water in here, or just pure steam, which would probably be our best solution, as steam cleaning is very efficient. But I've only got a steam cleaner, and it also isn't entirely mine. But that all has to be done after the carb is put on, because you cannot do that while the carb is off, because obviously you need the engine to be running. Yes, I am aware I'm kind of talking like an NPC right now. I don't know why, but it just happens. I don't know, I'm worried for this thing. Also, a lot more spacious without the air filter on. Without the carb on. This is not going to be fun. Well, time to get some carb cleaner, guys. I'm just really worried for this 212 because a lot of things are going on with it, and I already know my solutions are probably not going to work very well for it. Engine degreaser, no. Do we even have carb? Bingo. And we don't have a nozzle. Well, I'll deal with what you got. That's disappointing, because we should have that line. Because we gotta get to some very tough spots. I also gotta get a carburetor jet rebuild kit, preferably to replace all the jets, which would be 2. Also, want to get the battery for this thing. Alright, let's get to work cleaning this carb, shall we? You pretty much want to spray carb cleaner everywhere's on here. Every spot you can get at. Because you don't want to leave any spots unclean. First, we gotta take the floater, or float, off. Which you guys probably won't be able to see very well. So what you gotta do is you gotta take this pin and take it off. Which it seems to already be coming off. But you can only take these out one way. That came out a lot easier than it should have. And I am now very worried. Okay. That's gonna go housing. Put that over there. Pop this off. One thing I'd like to do is I'd like to get this thing out. Something just fell into my lap. And it's now on the ground. What was that? That just fell down. Oh, nice. That thingy. Yeah, now I gotta find where that came from. I have found where it came from. That should be attached. Oh, no. Oh. That ain't good. That ain't good at all. I wonder why this thing's struggling. If I believe correctly, this piece is supposed to be connected to here with like a spring or something. It's not connected with anything. So this has been down the entire time, meaning this engine's been struggling to get fuel since the start. Please correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe that this piece is meant to be connected to there. Please correct me if I'm wrong. I believe that's like what it's supposed to look like, almost. That, or like that. I believe like this, connected with the spring. Not sure, but still, nonetheless, it's not good. Not good at all. Now, for the fun part, actually getting this thing entirely clean. We're gonna face over here where we won't be working after we're done with this. Make sure you guys can see. Okay. This is a tedious process. Okay, here we go. First step, you want to spray it just directly into here. Now, okay, let's shake that up a little bit. Okay, I gotta have it straight up. Making sure to get every spot. You want to get it on every single hole that is on this carb. No matter if it is or isn't a hole that actually does something. You just want to get it in all of them. And I do this very rarely.